Hey everybody, AJ here, and welcome back to the Eagle Ray live stream. This is the much more informal version of the Eagle Ray channel. Every Wednesday we do a regular video, but on Sunday I like to just jump on camera and wing it a little bit because there's always something to talk about in the electric marine industry. It's a very young, very new industry, but something new going on every week. Welcome back to the Eagle Ray live stream. This is the much more informal. Having some audio technical difficulties. Give me 1 second. All right, getting rid of that echo. Live stream's working. Okay, so we're gonna get to the electric marine news. And like usual, after that, we're gonna do some behind-the-scenes commentary on the latest video that just came out. We'll talk about the current giveaway that's running, and then we'll take any questions from the live stream chat. And it looks like there's a couple of people in the live stream, so feel free and let me know where you're tuning in from. And if you have any questions, post them anytime, and I'll get to them at the end. But I appreciate you showing up. So let's dig straight into the news for today, which is kind of a follow-up on what we were talking about last week. Last week we went in depth looking at the MS Touranor, which was, to my knowledge, the very first solar-powered boat to circumnavigate the entire globe, and it was a giant boat, more than 100 feet from bow to stern. And since then, it's become much more affordable and accessible to just put a bunch of solar panels on top of usually a wide platform, a catamaran, sometimes a trimaran, and make a yacht out of it. So typically, yachts that can circumnavigate will have a mast and a bunch of sails, and then they'll throw a few solar panels on top in order to power things in the salon. But it's starting to become popular to completely replace the mast with a whole bunch of solar panels, enough to power electric motors to actually drive the thing across the ocean instead. So the MS Touranor was the first example of that. Very slow, very large boat. But they're starting to get to the point where they can put in bigger motors and power them at still fairly slow speeds. But if you have enough of a solar array and you have a light enough boat, then it makes sense to at least tour around a local area with that, if not actually be able to circumnavigate. So some of these boats are able to circumnavigate, but often what they're doing is they're transitioning from diesel-powered vessels toward electric-powered vessels the same way we did with cars. The Prius came out around the turn of the century, and originally they had a gas motor and an electric motor all in the same vehicle. They don't really do it that way anymore because it's much more efficient to go with what they call a plug-in hybrid, where the only thing powering the drivetrain is the electric motor, and then right behind that they have a diesel generator, or with cars they had a gas generator to recharge the battery so that you can just keep running that electric motor, and you can extend the range with a range extender as needed. And so for a lot of these new power catamarans that are coming out, what they're doing is they're saying for any local sailing you need to do, you can do it full electric, because a lot of them can do something like 100 miles of range. And sail for an entire day within a local area. So like if you want to cruise the Bahamas or cruise the Mediterranean or something like that, you can do it full electric. But then if you need to cross an ocean, well, that's why you have the diesel generator as a backup to get you those longer distances. So that's pretty cool. And these yachts are they're making them big and small. They're making them usually more on the luxury side of the market. I mean, yachts anyway are kind of on the luxury end of everybody's market. But they are starting to make some of these that are a little bit more affordable. So I just wanted to go through and very quickly highlight what's available on the market today or coming out in the next year or so. And the biggest one that stands out ever since Touranor, this was the earliest one that I heard of that seemed like it was actually going to be available for purchase. And it's from a company called Silent Yachts. You can see it here in the background, just making sure it's there for you guys to see, and there it is. So Silent Yachts looks like that right now. That's the one you can buy. And they actually, this company is growing like crazy, apparently. I had no idea how many versions of this yacht they had in production, but it looks like they have 7 versions of this yacht that are in production now. They just put out an article this week about the Silent 120, which is enormous. And this thing's pretty cool because just like we were talking about with the MS Touranor last week, where they had the cables that they would pull to extend the size of the solar panel array out off the sides of the deck. This Silent 120 can also do that. So you get the top deck available not by lifting the solar panels up like they do with the 60 and some of these other ones, but they actually take the panels that are on top and slide them out of the way off the sides of the deck, just like the Touranor did. And so I don't know that they have a prototype of that available yet. I think they're in development on it, so it's just in the design phase right now. But it's a really cool concept. Obviously going to be an extremely pricey boat. I think it has 3 decks and about astern. It's 120 feet. So just a huge vessel. Obviously, you're going to have several $1 million in order to afford something like this. And then it goes down the line from there. They have a 3-deck 80-footer. They have a 2-deck 80-footer. They launched the original, I think, in 2018, but this thing was in development for several years before that. I remember seeing articles about it in like 2016, I want to say. But the cool thing about this company that I wanted to highlight is they have very humble roots, which I really appreciate. Like, I love seeing a good entrepreneur story. And so this couple wanted this solution as they were circumnavigating the globe, and it just wasn't available anywhere. And so they actually built it from scratch. And if I remember right, this is what that looked like. So you can see on screen over here. I'm not sure if that's the couple on board right there, but that is the original yacht that they built. I think they converted not a power catamaran, but they took the mast off a sailing cat and just covered it with, it looks like 25 solar panels, 5x5 array that they put on there. I'm not sure what motors they paired that with, but it was the first power cat that was somewhat affordable, that was able to circumnavigate the globe. And I think they saw what was happening with MS Touranor, and they thought, well, I want to be able to do that too. And that's kind of the whole idea, I think, with this stuff. And from this, I think they gathered a lot of press momentum, and investors started calling and asking them to actually go into production on this. And that grew to what you see here, which is an insane success story. I mean, I imagine they're very profitable. I've heard that all of these models are sold out into the next several years. But yeah, this is definitely the most prominent and popular solar catamaran company that I've heard of. But it looks like there's a whole bunch of them popping up all across the world. So, for example, I'm not sure if this is located in Germany, but I know that Whisper Yachts is founded by a guy who used to work at BMW, and I think I read he has some background in the yachting industry also. I can't remember his name. Here we go. Guy Marchal. I think that's a French name. He's worked at Renault and Toyota also. And this guy it looks like he's in the design phase, because there's nothing physical that you can stand on this website that I've seen. Every single image of this is a rendering, and you can tell if you zoom into some of these graphics. The solar panel array, for example, is not even real solar panels. It's just like a texture. You can tell if you look close. But the specs that they have on here, I think they've basically pulled the specs straight off of BMW's electric propulsion lineup. So they have the i3 and the old i8 that I don't think is for sale anymore. And I imagine BMW's working on other electrics too. But this guy is taking the electric powertrain from BMW, all the stuff that he learned there, and bringing it into the yachting world via this Whisper brand. So I'm not sure when this yacht is coming out. But it looks like it's aiming to be a competitor of Silent for sure. Probably quite an expensive yacht. This one looks like a 50-footer, I want to say they are launching first. So it's slightly smaller, but still obviously got luxury amenities. On to the next one. The Zen 50 stood out to me because I had never seen this before. I just Googled it an hour ago. But the concept, I think, is really cool. It's not very common for you to see a power cat that also has sails that's solar powered, because the challenge of having a mast, especially one that has a large sail attached to it, conflicting with the solar panel array is a real problem that nobody, I think, has a perfect solution for yet. Obviously, it's easier to circumnavigate the globe if you have sails, especially if you have a multi-sail hull design. And then when you try and put solar panels under those sails, it doesn't really matter that much whether there's a lot of shadow or a little shadow. Basically, any shadow at all is a huge problem for a good solar panel array because you can wire them two different ways. You can wire them in series or in parallel or in some combination of both. But if you go full parallel, then they're very resilient to shadows. So that's kind of what you would have to do in a yacht situation where you have a large mast in the way that's always going to be casting a shadow somewhere on the panel array. But the way you would want to go if you're using your panels for a propulsion system, the highest power, highest efficiency version of a solar panel array is full series wiring, which is very problematic when you have any shadow because even the slightest shadow from just the mast, even if the sails are completely furled up, just the mast shadow will cause huge problems for the amount of power that you can generate off of the array and potentially kill a vast majority of the power you would have coming in that you need to drive the motors. So the Zen 50, it looks like, is trying to figure out this perfect best of both worlds solutions where they have, I don't know if you guys have ever seen these wing sails where it's basically like an aircraft wing except it's a sail. And usually I've seen them as fixed some kind of fiberglass or carbon fiber or something like that. They use them in boat racing. But this one is kind of a hybrid between a fixed wing sail and a furling sail because it's shaped like a wing sail, but it's also made of cloth and it can furl. So they can actually lower this thing down and get it out of the way, which is pretty cool because a majority of the shadow can be pulled down out of the way of the giant solar panel array that they also have on this vessel. And so hopefully that would solve most of the problem. But like I said, even if you just have the mast in the way and the mast is casting a shadow and the panels are wired in series, it's going to be a problem. So I wonder if on this Zen 50, if they have all of the panels wired in parallel. I didn't see it written here anywhere, but I imagine that's the way they would want to wire this thing. So it wouldn't be quite as efficient as a solar generation system as some of these other ones we've seen. But it's still, I think, a very interesting concept, and I'm curious to see the specs when this thing actually debuts. How far can it go? What's the propulsion system like? How big are the batteries? I want to see all the specs on things like this because I'm very curious what its capabilities are. Moving on to the next one, Alva Yachts. Never heard of this company. I basically just did a quick Google search and pulled up all of these, but they're just coming out of the woodwork now. This is a 90-foot solar catamaran. I don't know that this one's available to purchase yet. They have a 50-foot version too. That's pretty cool. And a lot of these look like European styling. I'm just going to kind of skip through this part because this looks like it was probably a yacht manufacturer prior to getting into electric propulsion. One of these companies that's now converting into eco-friendly versions of the products that they've been making for years. So some of these, I'm not sure how dedicated they are to actually creating a ground-up electric platform. Like Silent Yachts, electric in their blood from the ground up, right? Where some of these other companies are just yacht companies that are trying to cash in on the eco-friendly hype cycle. And the last couple that we're going to look at here are more toward the budget-friendly end of the market because I'm hoping that we get more of those in the future. I don't have millions of dollars. I can't afford any of these Silent Yachts. But it seems to me that it wouldn't be that difficult to take a budget yachting platform, so like a Leopard catamaran, used, you can get those for 300, 400K, which, don't get me wrong, it's the price of a house, but some people retire and sell their house and they go sailing through the Bahamas on an affordable catamaran, and in theory, you could build your own solar panel array and put it on top of one of those old used yacht platforms. I think that would be a super fun project for a lot of people. The only question is electric at the point where it's powerful enough to do that now? I think we're like very much on the cusp of that. And so you see things like this company, Soul Yachts, spelled S-O-E-L, which is building a yachting platform and a ferrying platform at the same time. So they're creating one vessel that can either be a yacht or a ferry, which I think is a really smart move, because I think the electric ferry market is going to probably grow faster and be more profitable than the recreational market, at least in the next few years. And then we'll see more and more yachting after that. But I think it's a really smart move to be able to satisfy both of those markets with one vessel platform. So this looks like one that I'm going to want to keep an eye on. The last two are, number one, this Earthling brand just got announced a couple weeks ago. I don't think they have a prototype yet, or if they do, I haven't seen it, but they do have this 3D rendering of their concept. This is kind of what I had in mind when I was talking about Leopard or any of the more affordable catamarans. This is a 40-foot vessel, very small solar panel array for the amount of power that they have pushing this thing. They do have a very interesting propulsion system in that the motors aren't that big. But the propellers are designed for electric. They're quite large, kind of like what we talked about with the MS Touranor last week. The propellers are much larger than the size you'd expect from a gas or diesel motor on a vessel like this. And then, like a lot of these, this is a hybrid design. So if you zoom in, you can see, and let me see if I can move this up a little bit. There we go. You can see right there is the diesel generator. So the plug-in hybrid design is what everybody's going for, just in case you need more range. But last thing I wanted to say about this one is this panel array on the top doesn't strike me as enough for a vessel like this. If I were going to buy a vessel like this, I would want many more solar panels than that in order to both drive this propulsion system and be able to use some of the electricity in the salon at the same time. So I believe they said this is a 2 kilowatt solar array. They could, if they just changed the design of this a little bit, they could fit 2 more rows along here and here, and that would close in on something that's more powerful enough to maybe get away with this platform being practical, I think. But if you were to take that to the next level even, you could do the MS Touranor thing where they have a second panel array layered on top that extends out when you're not at sea to double up that power generation. You could, I think, in theory, with a platform like this, fit perhaps up to 8 kilowatts of solar on top, if you really put the design through its paces. And I think we will see yachts like that in the future. I think we need to see yachts like that in the future, because 8 kilowatts, 10 kilowatts, that's about the range where you can both drive the propulsion system for a few hundred miles of range at least, and when you get to your destination, you're still going to have some power left over to run the air conditioner. You can't do that with 2 kilowatts of solar. This is a day cruiser with that much power on it. But if you could quadruple that amount of power, then you'd have something you can take all over the Bahamas with no trouble. So I'm excited to see more examples of that coming up in the near future. But in the meantime, I'm not sure if the last one we're going to look at is the cheapest option on the market, because it does look like a luxury hull. But it also looks like they kind of threw the propulsion system in as an afterthought. The panels that you can see on top here, they look like they were just added after the fact. They're just your regular flexible solar panels. But the design of this vessel is pretty cool. It's a 35-footer, so it's the smallest ground-up electric catamaran platform that I've found so far, and that's why I put it at the end here. So I'm not sure what the price is, but at 35 feet, it's about the smallest that you could get away with, I think, with a platform like this that can take you several hundred miles of range. And so I think the 35 to 45-foot range is going to become very popular with this solar electric propulsion system catamaran trend that we're starting to see. And we're obviously just scratching the surface of that. So it's pretty exciting times. I think we're going to see a lot more competition in this space in the near future. So looks like we don't have any questions in the chat yet, but we are going to move on to the latest video in the Eagle Ray channel, because we've got a video coming out every week. I'm trying to launch on Wednesday. I didn't quite make it this Wednesday because there were a couple of things that got in the way of me being able to launch on time this week. But I got this video out a couple of days ago, and I've been focused a lot on trolling motor and battery combo videos lately, and I wanted to start getting into different types of batteries because I have a whole bunch of different types of batteries here. But I get lots of questions in the forums online about this type of battery, that type of battery, and I have so many comparison tests that I still want to run, and I finally got to the point where we were ready to do the first one on the channel. So this week we have a comparison test between a lithium and an AGM, and it's not really that fair a comparison because if you're familiar with those two chemistries, you really have to buy a lot of AGM in order to rival the power of lithium. And the AGM tends to be kind of cheaper on the sticker price for the same size, but all of that is very confusing on purpose because of the way they label these batteries on the box. And that's always been very frustrating to me. So I kind of wanted to call them out on that a little bit with this video. Basically, I feel like AGM companies are kind of using false advertising these days when they're competing with lithium in order to keep selling products that are quite inferior. They really need to either bring the prices down or they need to stop labeling them the way that they do, in my opinion. And you'll see exactly why in this video. So I'll jump in and do some behind the scenes commentary as we watch this thing.
Gives you high quality daily nutrition that helps cover gaps in your diet in one simple scoop.
In this video, we're going to pit this lithium battery against this AGM battery and see who comes out on top. Hey everybody, AJ here, and welcome back to the Eagle Ray channel where we do all things DIY electric boats. Marine motors, batteries, solar panels, you name it, if it's got volts and it's on a boat, you are in the right place. Today, we are going to put lithium versus AGM head-to-head in a battle to the death. We're going to try and go as apples to apples as possible. We're going to get on Amazon in a moment. We're going to buy a lithium. We're going to buy an AGM. We're going to try and get one that has the same voltage and same capacity across the board. And then we're going to run them through capacity tests on the bench here in the studio before we take them out to the lake and see who wins on speed, range, and price. In the Amazon search bar, we're going to type in 12 volt, 20 amp hour LifePo 4. Now we're looking for the best bargain price on a 20 amp hour or something close to that size. It doesn't have to be exactly 20 amp hours, but it needs to be the same from the lithium to the AGM. And the winner by the long shot is the Leche 18 amp hour, which is close enough to 20. So now we just need to find an AGM that matches the 18 amp hours on the Leche. And here it is. It's yet another brand I've never heard of. It's called U+. And we're back in the studio. I was a little bit caught off guard when I launched this video of the pushback that I got on how much I railed against AGM. I am very not kind to the AGM battery in this video for reasons that should be obvious if you watch the whole video, but I got a lot of pushback from people in some of the forums who I think are just fans of AGM. I don't know if it's maybe they have a retail shop where they sell AGM batteries and they don't want me saying bad things about them, or they just are fans of a certain brand that makes AGM batteries. I don't know. But these AGM companies are very sneaky with the way they label these batteries, and I don't know why anybody would want to defend that. But you'll see what I mean in a moment. Real surprise there, but what about capacity? These both say 18 amp hours, so we're going to put that to the test. We're going to see if both of these companies can put their money where their mouth is. Are you ready? It's time to send it. We'll be testing both batteries today with the smallest troller that we happen to have in the studio right now. It's the Motor Guide R3. It's got 30 pounds of thrust. It pulls about 25 amps at full throttle. Right out of the gate, notice how under the exact same load, the lithium battery starts 0.2 volts above 12, where the AGM battery starts a third of a volt below that, even though they're both fully charged right now. Lithium has a higher resting voltage than AGM does, and it sags less under load. So you're always going to feel a lithium battery feels slightly more powerful than an AGM of the same capacity. And I emphasize same in quotes because even though this one says 18 amp hours and that one says 18 amp hours, you'd think the capacity would be the same, but what we're going to find is that they're actually worlds apart. There's really only one good thing I can say about AGM, and that's heat management. It stays. So I think the primary complaint from people who didn't feel like I was being fair to the AGM battery was I obviously, if you watch this whole video, it's clear I knew beforehand that the AGM was going to do really badly in this test, because a lot of people who have purchased AGM batteries, they know that they're labeled such that they actually only produce about half the power that they say that they do on the box. And that's just how AGM batteries have always worked. And my feeling on that has always been, why? That's them lying to us. So we just got used to the fact that they lie to us all the time, and we're okay with that now. But I think the argument that people have is, well, if you know about that, then isn't it only fair to actually buy an AGM that's double the rated amp hours to put it against the lithium battery? Because that's actually capacity-wise, that's what would make it fair if you match the known amp hour performance. And so I will do a video like that in the future, but it seems to me it's perfectly fair game. If they say that it has a certain number of amp hours on the box, even if I know that they're lying about that, I'm still going to put it up against lithium that has that number of amp hours, because I want anybody who watches my videos who didn't know that to see it firsthand, and hopefully they discover that these companies are lying to them through this video. That's kind of why I made the video.
How both of these did. The Leche promised us 230 watt hours. We actually got 211 watt hours. That's a shortfall of approximately 8%. And that makes sense because even lithium is subject to the Puchert effect, just not quite as badly as AGM is. On the AGM side, U+ promised us 216 watt hours, slightly lower than the promise we got from Leche, because AGM rests at a lower voltage than lithium, and so typically on the box of a lithium you'll see 12.8 volts is what's promised, whereas on an AGM it'll just say 12 volts. And then we got 99 watt hours. That is a shortfall of 54%. So we are going to finish this test, just to be fair, but so far these results are pretty insane. This one says 18 amp hours. It gave us 17 amp hours. That's pretty close. This one says 18 amp hours. It gave us 8 amp hours. After watching this, leave me a comment below if you would ever buy an AGM battery ever again.
And the other thing is, even if they did rate the battery correctly, if that battery said 8 amp hours on it, I still probably wouldn't buy it, because the price is not low enough for that to make sense. When you go apples to apples on the price per power, which is a video I'm making for this coming week, actually. We're going to look at all the details of how you can easily go power per price or price per power in order to figure out which battery is the best deal. You'd find that if that battery were rated correctly, it's not a good deal at that price. And that's why when people see the low price on an AGM, it's a trick, because it's actually a really not great price for how much power you get out of it.
The traditional gas-powered outboard is the way of the past.
Say goodbye to high prices at the...
The AGM product pages on Amazon are not to be trusted. It's a little bit different with lithium batteries, because lithium is very popular to dissect on YouTube. For every lithium battery you can find on Amazon, you'll probably find somebody doing a teardown video of it on YouTube. Not true with AGM batteries. So you'll find all kinds of lies in AGM product pages. For example, in the U+ product page, they claim that it's 5 pounds when it's actually 12 pounds. They claim that it's good for kayak trolling motors. We just saw that it only runs for 20 minutes at full throttle on a kayak trolling motor. That is completely insufficient. And finally, and this is the worst one by far, they say that it can do 270 amps. What? We saw it buckle with 25 amps. That doesn't even make sense. And right next to it, it says, in parentheses, 5S. That also doesn't make any sense, because if you wire 5 in series, that doesn't change the amperage at all. That changes the voltage. So if we gave them the... I'm honestly a little bit surprised that nobody has called me out on this part yet, because when I was watching this in preparation to upload it a few days ago, I was in a real hurry because I was already behind on my upload schedule a little bit. And I realized as I was watching this part, when it says 5S there, that's partially my mistake, because I realized as I was watching that part right before upload, I think what they meant was 5 seconds, not 5S as in 5 in series. And if they were saying 5 seconds there, then what they're saying is when you try and start a gas motor, it should be able to do a 270 amp CCA, which is typically pretty common for a small battery like that. But the thing is, that's not really a fair marking for a CCA number for that battery anyway, because it's so non-performant amp-wise from what we saw on the bench anyway. But on top of that, if they're trying to say that that's 5 seconds, they really need to say seconds, or at least SEC dot, because saying 5S is known among all battery manufacturers as 5 in series. That's what 5S means. So they really shouldn't be saying that there. It's either marketing where they're being intentionally misleading, or marketing where they were being accidentally misleading. But it's also partially my mistake, because I should have realized they meant 5S as in 5 seconds.
Leg, so I'm sure it's going to die any minute now. It's a good thing I remember to bring a spare lithium to get back to the launch ramp. And we're back with the final results. You probably guessed it, the lithium came out ahead by a landslide. Both of these batteries struggled a little bit under 24 amps of continuous load, but the Leche lithium gave us a total of 1.86 miles, and it did so in about 45 minutes, whereas the U+ AGM gave us only 0.88 miles, a little bit less than half, and it did it in 23 minutes of runtime. Just like we expected, the lithium performed more than twice as well as the AGM on every metric except top speed. So top speed, they were pretty similar. The lithium did 2.
So I think we can cut it off right there. I'm not going to go in depth on the final results and the specs, because if you want to see all of those details, you can just watch the video right after this. But let me pause this for a second and jump into the main channel page, because I would like to just highlight a couple of things before we get to the giveaway, because the latest video that we just watched up here is doing pretty well so far. Not quite as well as the video from last week, but neither of those two videos are doing near as well as this trolling motor video from a few weeks ago. So when that video came out, I was like kind of blown away by how incredibly well it did all of a sudden. It was the first video where the YouTube algorithm kind of gave it the magic wand and started showing it to everybody on the homepage, and it went like gangbusters and thousands of views every single day practically, which was exciting. That has slowed down a little bit, and so I'm kind of on the other end of that now. It's still getting watched by a lot of new people, which is great. But I think last week it had something like 22,000 views, and so we have almost 10,000 more than that on just that video. That does still make that the most watched video on my channel by far, but there's a couple of new ones that are doing okay. The one from last week up here did over 1,000 views, but that one is not quite moving as fast anymore as this trolling motor video from a few weeks ago. So I'm hoping that one will pick up a little bit. But I'm trying to experiment too with like, what should the thumbnail have on it? What should the title say? Because I'm learning a lot about how YouTube works, and that YouTubers are changing their thumbnails and titles all the time, and I had no idea about that. But they're constantly iterating and experimenting until they can get the best bang for their buck as far as the YouTube algorithm is concerned. So you tweak the title just a little bit, suddenly a whole bunch more people start watching it. I think I need to go and do a little bit more of that in order to get some of these videos moving. But just like we did last week, I want to just call out the very first video from the channel, this one right here, because this one I've discovered by looking at the analytics. I think I know what the problem is with this video. This video, when people do watch it, it gets great results. So there's two ways for a video to do well on YouTube. Number one, you can have a good click-through rate. In other words, somebody looked at the thumbnail, or they saw the title, or both, and they thought, I want to watch that, and they click on it. So there's a click-through a percentage for how many people saw it. A certain percentage of them clicked on it, right? So this one has excellent click-through rate, and it has excellent retention. So the two things are, did people start watching and did people keep watching? And so the numbers that I'm getting off of this video are pretty amazing. They're like some of the best on the whole channel. Just as good as the video that's been seen by tens of thousands of people, but almost nobody has seen this video yet. And I was trying to figure out, like, why not? Why isn't YouTube showing this to anybody? I don't understand. But I think I figured out what it is. It's when I first launched the channel, the very first week was not the first week. I actually accidentally launched this video a week early, and I realized that I had scheduled it wrong, and it was live for like 2 minutes, and I rushed and I made it private so that it wouldn't launch early because I wanted it to come out a week later. What I should have done in that moment is delete it and then re-upload it a week later, because instead I just turned it from private back to public a week after that. And because I did that, I think what happened is the YouTube algorithm looked at the entire first week of that video having 0 views, 0 interaction whatsoever, and it said to itself, oh, that's obviously a video that everybody hates, so I'm not going to show that to anybody ever. And it didn't. It hasn't shown this once on the homepage, not at all. And it's kind of driving me crazy because I think this video will do just as well as that one that's been seen by 30,000 people as soon as it gives a chance for somebody to see it for the first time. So just like I mentioned last week, I would really appreciate anybody who's watching this right now, if right after you're done with this live stream, go into this video if you haven't seen it already, give it a watch. If you enjoyed it, click the like button. And if we can get this video trending, then we're going to be at 1,000 subscribers in practically no time, because we're already almost at 500, and the channel's only been around for a little bit over 2 months. So that's pretty decent growth, I think. And the reason that's important is because when we get to 1,000, we're doing the first giveaway. And I've been saying it in every video, so you guys, those of you who are coming back every week, you probably noticed I sound like a broken record at the end of all these live streams. But some new people are showing up every week, so I want them to know about it too. The Milwaukee angle grinder is the first thing that we're giving away. It's my first power tool I ever owned. This is a brand new copy of it. I've got mine over there. Anybody who wants to get into creating things with their hands, if you work with any kind of metal, this is a must-have tool. So I'm giving this away for free. The batteries that go with these, because it's cordless, are quite expensive. So I'm going to throw in one of my Milwaukee batteries to go with this for whoever wins it. And as soon as we reach 1,000 subscribers, we are going to give this away on the very next live stream after that, as long as there are 100 people in the chat. And that might be a little bit tough at first because, as you can see, if you dropped into the chat, there were a few people here, but it's very quiet in the chat right now because the channel is very young. We have a little bit less than 500 subscribers total right now. So when I launch one of these live streams, there's only really a few people who see it show up in their notification feed. But when we get to 1,000 subscribers, there's going to be some more. And it seems to me like, from what I've heard from other YouTubers, when you get to about 5,000 subscribers, that's when you can start building up a pretty sizable live stream anytime you hit the live button. But before that, I don't want to just give away the first prize when there's only like 5 or 10 people in the chat. So what we're going to do is, as soon as we unlock the 1,000 subscriber threshold, we're going to do the giveaway if we can get 100 people in the chat. And that shouldn't be that hard. Once we have 1,000 subscribers connected to the channel, there will be probably 10 or 20 people who show up in the live stream just because they want to be there anyway. And when we get to that live stream, I'm just going to announce to everybody, hey, we can do the giveaway right now. If everybody hits the like button, if everybody gets the word out on social media right now, get a few more people in here. As soon as we get 100 people in here, we're going to do the giveaway. So that's how it's going to work when that comes up. So I suspect, because of how fast we're growing right now, that's going to happen in about a month or so. It's hard to say exactly how fast the channel is going to grow, but we got to almost 500 in a little bit more than 2 months. And typically the first 500 are harder to get to than the second 500. So it's likely that we're going to get to 1,000 a little bit faster than that. So I think before June, we might hit that 1,000 threshold, and we're going to do the first giveaway. So keep an eye out for your notifications if you want to be a part of that. And it looks like there is no questions in the chat right now. So if anybody has any questions, got to get them to me in the next 10 seconds. Otherwise, we are going to wrap. But I want everybody to know that I'm back here every week on Sunday at 2 p.m. So if you're watching this after the fact, come back to the next one because you can ask questions in the chat, or you can just hang out and chat with me. I'm happy to spend some time just hanging out with anybody who wants to show up. So I also want you guys to know that I was a drone in the VFX industry until about a year ago. I was stuck in a cubicle all day, just writing code all day long, never saw the sun. I always wanted to retire on the beach and have a boat and enjoy the water. But it just felt like living in LA, everything was getting more expensive every year, faster than I could get a better wage every year. And so it was just never going to happen. That's what it felt like. It's kind of like that horror movie situation where you get tunnel vision all of a sudden. That's what LA felt like. So I got out of there a little bit less than a year ago. I came here to Lake Havasu, where I have now started the YouTube journey, and it gives me a reason to go get out on the lake and enjoy the sun multiple times a week. And there's been nothing better for my peace of mind in my entire life. And so I don't think everybody should need to escape their current living situation in order to enjoy just a piece of nature. But if you just make some time to get out on a local body of water, a lake or a river or whatever, get a kayak, get a small boat, and go do it. It's going to change your state of mind by leaps and bounds, and I highly recommend that you do that in the near future, even if you can only do it once this year. Get it done, because it makes a huge difference in how healthy you feel. So with that, I'm going to let you guys go. I hope to see you here next week, back here every Sunday at 2 p.m. Join us for the next one. Until then, I want you guys to boat safe and take care. Have a good one.